Hi everyone, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Arthur Carvalho. I am an associate professor at Miami University of Ohio, and on behalf of my co-authors, I'm presenting today the paper Designing Fair and Inclusive NFT Projects. So our work is about college sports, which are an inherent aspect of many higher education institutions, and that's primarily true in the United States, where we have this concept of student athletes. These are athletes who may receive scholarships, and at the same time, they are full-time students. And we have some organizations in the United States responsible for all the legislation, all the regulations related to scholarships, as well as the collegiate sports. And one of the most important ones in the United States is called NCAA, which stands for National Collegiate Athletic Association. So there was a massive change proposed by the NCAA on June 30th, 2021, in that NCAA student athletes can now profit from their name, image, and likeness, what's also known as the NIL. So before that policy change, that was not allowed at all. For student athletes to be on a scholarship and be able to play at the collegiate level, they should keep the amateur status. And again, that's no longer true now because of that policy change. But the hard reality now that we observe after about 1 year and a half is that it is highly unlikely that the close to 500,000 active NCAA student athletes will ever profit from any NIL deals. So that led us to some guiding concerns that will guide our research. These concerns are related to, number one, inclusiveness. And we want to develop solutions that will help all the student athletes to have access to NIL financial resources. And we also have concerns related to fairness. We want to develop solutions, technological solutions, that can help all the student athletes to have a fair share of NIL financial resources. Of course, we have to define what fair means, and we will get to that point in a few slides from now. So from this point on, we decided to develop technology, develop solutions that can help, again, student athletes to secure NIL resources as well as secure them in a fair way. So to develop these solutions, we followed a design science research approach. That is our methodology. We followed precisely the steps in the paper by Peffers and co-authors, and we have a total of 6 steps there. Step number 1, we identified the problem by interviewing stakeholders. After we identified that problem, we went to step number 2, which is to define the objectives for a solution, some sort of a meta high-level solution. Then step number 3, that's when we designed the solution itself based on these objectives defined previously. Then we demonstrate that artifact, that solution, we evaluate that solution, and finally we communicate the results. I'm going to go over steps 1 to 5 in what follows, and of course the step number 6, communication, is our paper which I'm presenting now. So step number 1 and 2, I'm going to combine these two together now and explain how we identified the problem, we validated the problem, and how we came up with objectives for a solution. So we interviewed 12 student athletes from 4 different academic institutions in the United States, and we asked a bunch of questions to them. We asked questions such as, what are your opinion on the new regulatory change related to NIL, or questions like, who do you think will profit from this NIL change? So I'm going to summarize the main finds from our interviews. Number 1, there was very strong consensus that this new change, this regulatory change, are positive. So the student athletes really like the change, which is not surprising at all because now they are able to profit, to make some money out of their name, image, and likeness, something that was not really available before. So again, the first result is not really surprising to us. Then we also get this very strong consensus on who will profit from NIL deals. When we ask that question, who do you believe will profit from NIL deals? Pretty much all the student athletes said the students in top sports, like famous popular sports like basketball and American football, and only the most popular students inside these sports. So only very limited number of people will actually ever have NIL deals. And that led us to formulate the first objective for a solution. Anyone trying to promote, to create NIL opportunities should have this principle of inclusiveness in mind, which says that all student athletes should, at least in theory, have access to NIL financial resources. Now, there was one interesting answer, and that was not consensual, but was close to be consensual, that the student athletes mentioned that the student athletes should be rewarded differently. It's not that everybody should make the same amount of money. Different athletes should make more, and other athletes should make less money from NIL. In other words, there was some sort of agreement that the very top student athletes, the best performing ones, should perhaps receive more money than, let's say, the average student athlete out there. And that led us to formulate this second principle related to fairness. And the best principle out there, equality principle that we can find, is from Aristotle. And that principle says that equals should be treated equally and unequals unequally. So that reflects very nicely the responses from the student athletes when it comes to fairness. So to summarize up to this point, after interviewing and validating problems with the student athletes, we also formulated these two high-level objectives that any solution should satisfy. Any solution to help student athletes secure NIL deals. It has to be inclusive and it has to be fair. And by fair, again, we follow Aristotle's equality principle. So what we did next was to develop a solution, a specific solution that satisfies both principles that we developed before. And that solution is based on non-fungible tokens. So the idea here is that every single student athlete will be associated with one or potentially many NFTs, and whenever a transaction involving that NFT happens, the student will automatically receive royalties. Okay, so now we designed two features for that solution. The first feature that is associated with the inclusiveness design principle, that feature says that student athletes receive royalties from sales of random packs of collectibles in primary markets. What that means is when this NFT is created for the first time and minted for the first time, when someone buys these NFTs, that person cannot really buy deterministically. That initial purchase is done randomly. We have random packs of cards, and then the user or the fan buying the cards doesn't really know which cards the user will receive. And we argue that such a practice boosts inclusiveness because now any student athlete can receive royalties from that initial transaction. Now we have a design feature number 2 as well. That feature number 2, it handles the fairness principle, and it says that in secondary markets, student athletes will also make money from royalties. In other words, if a fan buys some cards in primary markets, and that's completely random, that fan, that user, can eventually sell in secondary markets, and that's going to be deterministic, and the student athlete whose face is on that card will also make money based on royalties. So our expectations here is that in the long term, the most popular student athletes will always make more money because, again, they will make more money in secondary markets. So once we designed our solution, the next step was to develop that solution. So we developed a platform and then we deployed the smart contracts on Ethereum as the back end. The front end was developed using Node.js. And for our purposes, the number one goal for having this platform is to validate our ideas with the student athletes. So we went back to the student athletes, we interviewed with them again, the same 12 student athletes we interviewed before, and we asked questions such as, do you think the solution is useful to reward all student athletes? Why or why not? Do you think the solution will allow for more fairness opportunities when it comes to exploring NIL regulatory change? Why and why not? And what we got from the student athletes after the interview was universally accepted that the solution can help reward all the student athletes, and the solution is fair in a sense that, again, the top performing athletes in expectation in the long term will end up making more money because of the sales in secondary markets. With that being said, to summarize our work, our work is about a study on the prospect of NFTs creating NIL opportunities. We followed a design science study. We developed an artifact that's based on royalties. We have random packs in primary markets and direct sales in secondary markets. Whenever a transaction happens, the student athletes will receive some money. So they are rewarded based on their name, image, and likeness. And our evaluation with the main stakeholders show that there is strong evidence that the artifact supports inclusiveness and fairness. And that is it for my presentation. Thank you so very much for listening.